يا راغبا في كل علم نافع.
ينمو العلم ويتقدم بتقنياته ومجالاته، ومعه نطور أدواتنا في تقديم العلم الشرعي. أكاديمية
زاد أكاديمية ينبوعها صاف ليروي غلة الظمآن، والسيرة العلياء عطرة الشدى طيب يفوح لأهل كل زمان. بشرى لنا زاد أكاديمية للعلم كالأزهار في البستان.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وآله وصحبه ومن اهتدى بهداه. أما بعد. When we look at our children and grandchildren, if you were blessed with any, we see that there is a huge gap between how we deal and treat them and how the Prophet ﷺ used to deal and treat them. Some of us may go to extreme. Some may not attend his children at all, claiming that they're young, they're kids, let them do whatever they want. So no matter what they do, they would never teach them or reprimand them because they're children. On the other hand, you find people are so rigid and rude. They're disciplining their children even when they are few months old. Some of them spanking them, some of them shouting at them. What are you doing? I said, no, I'm reprimanding my child. I'm raising them to be disciplined and this and that. There is something wrong in you both. First of all, Allah Azza wa Jal took children out of their mother wombs not knowing anything. And He gave them hearing, the sight, and the ability to figure out things and taught them what they did not know. So they are capable of learning. And at the same time, children are children. If you see someone with a young child sitting next to him and the child doesn't move, doesn't talk, doesn't do anything, there's something wrong with the child. It is only natural for children to play, to break things, to jump from one place to the other. This is what children do. So you have to understand the nature of children so that you could teach them and guide them and direct them to become the best they can be in the future. The Prophet ﷺ used to tolerate what no one else could, especially from his own grandchildren and from other children as well. So many boys and girls in their early months of their lives, the Prophet used to carry them and they used to urinate on him. Children. And at the time they did not have any diapers. And this happened with Al-Hassan, with Al-Hussein, with many other children that were not of the Prophet ﷺ. And the Prophet would say, don't scare my son. Let him finish until he finishes his urine. And then after that, he would wash it off with water. And this is what the Prophet taught us, alayhi salatu wasalam. When a baby boy that did not eat solid foods urinates on you, you just simply sprinkle water and just follow water on the area. But when a baby girl urinates, you have to wash it off. What's the difference? Allah knows. But this is the sunnah. Karz al-Khuzaiyyah says, the Prophet ﷺ was brought up with a baby boy, not his, and he urinated on him, so he ordered the water to be only run over the urine. And when he was brought with a baby girl and she urinated on him, the Prophet ordered that area to be washed off. Now you compare the doing of the Prophet ﷺ with the shouting and the screaming of others when this happens to them. It's insane. These are children. They're not accountable. They don't know what is being done or what they're doing as well. Also, Khalid, who was a very little young girl, tells us about something that happened to her when she was a young girl. When the Prophet ﷺ was brought by a piece of cloth that was nice, he said, "Bring me Khalid." And she came and she was playing around. So the Prophet dressed her with that. And he said, "MashaAllah, sana," which in Abyssinian means beautiful, beautiful. And she went behind the Prophet's back to look at the seal of the prophethood, which we've described before. And she was playing with it. And she says, "My father reprimanded me. What are you doing? Come." And the Prophet said, No, leave her, let her play. And he made dua for her. This is what the Prophet did with a random girl, a young 5-year or 4-year-old girl, which shows you how the Prophet loved children, alayhi salatu wasalam. A man would come to the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam with his daughter, and the Prophet would welcome that daughter and hug her and play with her. And she would hang on his back and play with the Prophet. And the Prophet laughs and he does not reprimand her or shout at her or do anything, just making dua. The Prophet used to, alayhi salatu wasalam, also play joyfully with his grandchildren, with children generally, but specifically with his own grandchildren. Once he was with one of his companions, Ya'la ibn Murrah, may Allah be pleased with him, to answer an invitation for food. On their way, he met Al-Husayn ibn Ali. So the Prophet rushed ahead of those walking with him. And then he intercepted Al-Husayn's way, opening his arms like this. So Al-Husayn was joyfully laughing and trying to go to the right. The Prophet did this. He went to the left. The Prophet did this, alayhi salam, until he caught up with him and he hugged him and kissed him. And so many times the Prophet used to take Usama ibn Zayd and Al-Hasan ibn Ali and make them sit on his thighs and hug them and say, "Oh Allah, have mercy on them, because I have mercy on them." He used to love them. Usama ibn Zayd, we know that Zayd ibn Haritha was, before adoption was banned and abrogated, he was the son of the Prophet. So Usama is in the same age and status of his own grandchildren. The Prophet was soft-hearted towards children. While praying in the congregation, leading the prayer, if he heard a child cry, he would hasten his prayer so that the prayer would be over shortly and the mother of the child could attend her son or answer whatever he had to demand from her. And he said, alayhi salatu wasalam, in an authentic hadith, "I stand up in prayer and I wish to prolong it, but when I hear a child crying, I shorten my prayer and hasten it so that I would not burden his mother." Also, the Prophet ﷺ would tolerate children, his own, even during prayer. Once he prayed while having Al-Hasan or Al-Hussein with him. And during sujood, he prolonged it so long that one of the companions raised his head, thinking that the Prophet might have died. And when he raised his head, he found that the Prophet ﷺ was prostrating, but his grandson was mounting him, riding him. So after the prayer was concluded, people said, Prophet of Allah, we thought that you died. You prolonged the sujood so much that we thought that something happened to you. He said, no, nothing had happened like that. All what was there that my son, referring to Al-Hasan or Hussein, a grandson, is also referred to as a son in Arabic. So my son mounted me, so I didn't want to rush him until he was satisfied, and he left me on his own. He used to allow them in the masjid. In one hadith, the Prophet was giving khutbah, he was giving an oration, and Al-Hasan and Hussein came wearing red garments, and they were tripping, falling and standing up. So they were like 2 or 3 years of age. The moment he saw them, he came down from the pulpit and he took them up to the pulpit, and he said, I saw these 2 young boys and I could not hold myself from taking them. And he read the ayah, إِنَّمَا أَمْوَالُكُمْ وَأَوْلَادُكُمْ فِتْنَةً. Your wealth and your offspring are merely a test. Not only the boys, even his granddaughter, Umamah bint Abi al-As, the Prophet used to pray while carrying her. Throughout the prayer, imagine the Imam doing this in your local masjid. You'd probably fire him the following day. Not the Prophet. He used to carry his granddaughter, and whenever he wanted to do ruku' or sujood, he would place her on the ground, and whenever he stood up, he picks her up and carries her. And he used to love Al-Hasan al-Hussein greatly. And he used to say that they are my flowers in this dunya. I love them. And they are the masses of the youth in paradise. And whoever loves me must love them. And whoever hates them, then he hates me. And the Prophet ﷺ used to give them gifts as grandchildren, as in the hadith of Umamah bint Abi al-As, where the Prophet was given a ring and he gave it to her and made her wear it, and he said that this is nice on you. And at the same time, he used to teach them what is halal and what is haram. So when Al-Hasan was a young child, he found a date and he ate it, and the Prophet took it from his mouth and he says, Kikh, kikh. Don't you know that we do not consume sadaqah or charity? So the Prophet prevented him at a very young age, though maybe others would think that he would not understand, but he would. Not only that, Al-Hasan, may Allah be pleased with him, at a very young age, at 7 maybe, or 8, came to the Prophet ﷺ and asked the Prophet to teach him what to say in Qunut al-Witr. And this is what we say till date, Allahumma hadini fi man hadayt wa afini fi man afayt. The dua, it was narrated by Al-Hasan. He taught Al-Hasan, and the Hasan taught the Ummah what to say. Compare this to what so many of us as parents fail to do big time when we don't teach our children how to behave, how to know what is right and what is wrong, claiming that they're only children, they wouldn't understand. But the Prophet proved to us, ﷺ, that they do understand, and we have to put it in them so that they would be brought up according to the Quran and to the Sunnah. هذا والله أعلم ونسبة العلم إليه أسلم وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على عبده ورسوله نبينا محمد.
يا راغبا في كل علم نافع.
ينمو العلم ويتقدم بتقنياته ومجالاته، ومعه نطور أدواتنا في تقديم العلم الشرعي. أكاديمية
زاد أكاديمية ينبوعها صاف ليروي غلة الظمآن، والسيرة العلياء عطرة الشدى طيب يفوح لأهل كل زمان. بشرى لنا زاد أكاديمية للعلم كالأزهار في البستان.